Jiri Prochazka is a fighter who I think many people perceive as this kind of a wild man, fearless and swing, and does also a little bit odd stuff. Some even say like weird stuff, but it became quite evident the rationale behind actually what he's doing when we met him.
Everyone has like a breaking point, and it just depends on who breaks first. Even the toughest guys, if you are emotionally broken, you will break almost immediately under pressure.
Sometimes I feel like I get into the flow and I'm just like moving any way I want, and then I can see the opponent. I can react in the best possible manner. But that is all like thanks to the flow state, because she said like keep your eyes open. Like it's like see what the opponent is actually doing, which would seem obvious. You need to keep your eyes open, but it's not so obvious. You can relax your body, but don't relax your mind and your vision.
So that's why we were interacting with Alistair Overeem just a few months ago. He's planning like insanely big, like some of the biggest events ever, the biggest health and fitness and detox and holistic stuff events in history probably. It's very nice to see like this, some of the biggest and most successful guys finding this stuff and really starting to learn the real natural holistic way of training.
So quite recently we've had an amazing opportunity to meet people who are professional fighters in the UFC, even like legends of the game, former champions, current champions, both in Dubai and also outside of Dubai. And this has been something that I think has given us quite a perspective into actually the combat and the fighting sport and even the mental approach that these guys have. And one of the latest actually encounter that we had was meeting Jiri Prochazka. So we met, he's the light heavyweight champion of UFC. And we went to actually travel in Europe, and at the same time we went to Czech Republic and in the city there called Brno to meet Jiri Prochazka. And we were going to show him a lot of our methods and training, but also we learned a ton of stuff about him as well, about his approach in fighting, his mental attitude, and how he even perceives the movement in the fighting itself. This was very interesting because Jiri Prochazka is a fighter who I think many people perceive as this kind of a wild man or like a guy who is just fearless and swing and does also a little bit odd stuff. Some even say like weird stuff, but it became quite evident the rationale behind actually what he's doing when we met him. And there were multiple things that I even learned from him. And one really peculiar stuff that stick in my mind that came evident at least 2 times when we were with him was first time this came out when we went to a lake there. He wanted to show us a lake in Brno where we could like swim. It was really nice. But when we were coming back from the lake and we were discussing in the car, he mentioned, like we were asking about his schedule, how many times a day does he train, how much he usually trains. And I think he trains like hard, like about 5 days a week, and 1 off day and 1 like a lighter day. And so he said on one of these sort of off days or lighter days, he also does a lot of journaling. So he's write things down, like he really analyzes things that he has learned, maybe his mistakes, maybe where he needs to get better, and he just puts those down. I think that was really interesting for a wild man to do this kind of journaling, like just writing actually things down. And the second time that this came out where he actually writes things down was when we were finishing a session where we're doing movement training, and I was also sharing stuff about the shoulder articulations because he had a bad injury like over half a year ago in his shoulder, like a very severe injury, and he was still like there was still a little bit of symptoms there, and I was sharing some stuff on how he could further improve his this rehab process and strengthen the shoulder. And by the end of that, he was kind of like interrupting me and he was talking to Zay in his own language. His trainer was also there. He was talking that he needs to make notes. He needs to write this down because this is important knowledge. He wants to like remember the stuff that I was talking about there. And this is something that really struck me like on these 2 occasions, that because I don't usually journal things. Like I don't usually write things actually, or I write things down when I'm like writing a post or an article or something like this, but I don't necessarily write things that I just get somewhere. Even in the MMA practice, I learn something, I don't necessarily write it down. So this got me thinking, okay, maybe
I would say actually for us the videos and the articles are our way of journaling.
Yeah, that is actually
and our programs also and methods.
Yeah, that's actually quite true. But yeah, I also started to get inspiration from just like getting from the, like if we go have an MMA practice, for example, with the Nordine Taleb or someone, maybe write things down even from that. But this journaling stuff, it was just like one of the things that I actually learned from him.
Yeah, for me, the big thing was understanding his style, because people see his style and they don't really understand it because it's very unorthodox and very different from like the standard way of fighting. But what I understood is that it's very like, he's actually like a rhythm fighter and like a flow fighter, which really relies on like reading the opponent and counter-attacking and also pressuring him, the opponent in the right moments and like this. So that was for me very interesting to see. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that he actually mentioned, because we have this on video, like we were able to film a lot of stuff, which like super interesting things. He said that the number one like rule, he was like, number one thing was the timing. And the timing came from, he used the term like I think it was reading the opponent's energy or sensing the opponent's energy. So actually the number one thing is you need to observe the opponent, his energy, and then based on that you do the distance control and the timing, which was quite remarkable. Like, and I think this really shows even in his fight the way he does, like the way he reacts sometimes and counters another person. And,
yeah, in fighting, actually, the intangibles like understanding energy and timing and all these other things are actually more important than technique or these traditional rules of how to strike and so on. Because after all, I would say mixed martial arts is a very new sport, and for a very long time we have been trying to mix different disciplines together. It's like boxing and then kickboxing and wrestling and grappling, and then try to apply the rules of different sports to MMA.
Yeah.
So as a result, we see these fighters, they basically apply many of the rules of boxing to MMA, like keep your hands up always and do these certain movements and certain strikes and like this. But I think now, little by little, we are starting to understand that mixed martial arts is like a total different thing. And many of the rules that apply in Muay Thai or in boxing or even in wrestling, they don't apply anymore as well in mixed martial arts. And in mixed martial arts, you have way more just new rules you can apply.
Variables.
Yeah, variables, and you can like adjust everything very differently.
Yeah, and you mentioned also the flow thing, because I think he also emphasized the flow element. Like you said, he's a flow fighter.
Yeah, the flow and rhythm.
Yeah,
it's the same thing many times. Like flow, it depends also on the opponent, but rhythm is So yeah.
But yeah, this is the thing. I think the rhythm, maybe also the rhythm comes from the flow in a sense.
Yes.
But at least the way I understood it, this is not his direct words, but I was thinking beforehand or after this that, you know, the ability to even read, because we've done a lot of sparring, we've done like a ton of this stuff, we've done also the pad training, like, and all these things, and I know this, like if you get fixated, right, you're not in the flow, you're actually try to go like more stiffer and you try to do a specific combination, then you're not really in the flow, right? And you're more stiff, and you're actually, what you're doing, you're focusing on the combination. I want to do this like this way. Then you are focused on yourself. And if you're focused on yourself, it's very difficult to focus on the other person. And if you can't focus on the other person, how do you read? How do you sense the other person's energy? So I started to think like the flow state is probably really one of the big reasons of, or really in the heart of Jiri Prochazka's like success and why he's good at using the timing. Because the flow state allows him to be relaxed, and it allows him to observe the opponent. Because I find it for myself sometimes really difficult, and it's because I'm not yet so maybe experienced or confident always. Sometimes I feel like I get into the flow and I'm just like moving any way I want, and then I can see the opponent, I can react in the best possible manner. But that is all like thanks to the flow state, because now you can focus on the other person, because you are in a flow, so it's like automatic. Your movement is automatic, and you're just like, yeah, I guess more relaxed then. Or what do you think?
Yeah, I think for me it has always been more about the opponent, because for me sometimes I don't even do anything. I just observe, observe, and I then try to come up with counter attacks and some side kicks and strikes, and I always try to find like openings, because it's also like different personality and mentality.
Yeah.
Like some people are more like they just go and try to press through the opponent, whereas some other people they just wait for the right moment and then they strike.
Right. Maybe it's then like
so
kind of
for example,
combining those two in some ways.
Yeah, you have to combine, especially at the high level. But for example, both GSP, like George St. Pierre, which we met in Australia many years ago and had some seminar and training with him, and also Anderson Silva, who we met in Dubai just 1 year ago. Both of these fighters are also very like observative fighters, like especially Anderson Silva. He just flows and has the certain rhythm and just wait for this counter strike. And for that reason, if you are not pressuring Anderson Silva, it's usually nothing happens in that fight. It's can be like a boring fight. But so I would say Anderson Silva is also a very adaptable fighter. And GSP, he's also observative, but his strategy and the flow is completely different. He's not actually like a flow and rhythm fighter. He's more like an intelligent fighter. He's always observing, but he always has some different tactics and different strategies to attack. But he's not really flowing. But he's observing and using his mind to read his opponent and then apply different tactics. But he's not flowing in the moment as in the same way as, for example, Jiri Prochazka or Anderson Silva.
Yeah, Silva also, but that's a good point. Like you mentioned, they all have the same, or what is the common thing? Common factor is that they all observe, but then the other factor is some flow, some are more, I don't know, like they have that like clear, I don't know, more strategy, or I don't know how do you actually separate those, the flow and what is the GSP like?
I would say it's more about the mind. It's more like intelligence, more about intelligence and preparation. Especially
it's
preparation.
Like what is the chess?
Yeah, chess. Like chess. I would say GSP is more like a chess master kind of fighter, whereas Jiri Prochazka is more like flow, like a dancer.
Yeah, but that was one of the also most impressive things was seeing his movement, because he's a big guy. He's like way over 90 kilos.
96.
Like 96 kilos, or what is he, 190 centimeters. And he looks like big. And he was even bigger, I think, during the UFC when he was fighting. But the guy moves. It's very springy. It's very like powerful. And the way he like even springs from the ground. Like this was something was quite amazing to actually like just observe from the side. That made like a big impact. It was like something when sometimes you see a really good guy do something, even if you like spar with someone, then you start to like absorb the same stuff from the guy, I feel like.
Yes, and we did sparring with Jiri and also learned, like, had lots of moments to learn from like his philosophy and training techniques and everything, and you like immediately you just absorb it.
Yep.
So that's why like the learning through osmosis and learning through like just from cooperation, it's like amazing way to learn.
It is, and even during the sparring, I remember he was teaching during the sparring, sometimes like commenting something, and like a very interesting thing he also mentioned was this alertness. Like she said, like keep your eyes open, like see what the opponent is actually doing, which would seem obvious. You need to keep your eyes open, but it's not so obvious. Like, because I can remember multiple times in sparring, you throw your combination and then you lower you're like you punch or something, and how do you say, like you lower your alertness for some reason. I don't know why, but you're just no longer that alert. But even after like a combination, it doesn't matter how much or how tired you are. He's like you should be like follow, always keep the focus. Like this is also like super interesting, which I think should maybe, that is something that is not always like emphasized. Not so many people emphasize it. It sounds simple, but it's probably one of the keys. Like always just maintain that same alertness. Like you can relax your body, but don't relax your mind and your vision of what is happening in a way.
Yeah, even in UFC, lots of fighters, when they fight, they start to see red and they just become bulls. They just go and fight. Like they are not even present in the moment anymore. And that's actually very hard in a fight, because once the fatigue starts to set in, once you start to feel pain, you get kicked and punched, and especially after fatigue and you start to get tired, it's really hard to have the same level of clarity. Sometimes you have more, actually.
Yeah,
sometimes you have more, but many times you just go autopilot and then it's just go with the flow. And sometimes it's good, but you kind of lose the
I think because this is very interesting. It's a little bit related to this, that when we were having a lunch with Jiri, and we were also talking about this mental thing. We were talking about breathing and stuff like qigong. And then at some point he mentioned like, well, but you need to also be ready to like forget all the stuff. Like, you know, you in a fight, you may end up in a position where you're not going to be thinking about how do I breathe into, where do I breathe into, or what you're actually doing. You may need to go beyond. Like he was talking about this thing, which was quite interesting. And I think he referred to the fight with, who was the latest? I forget the
Clover.
Clover. Sorry, I forget these names always. So the fight with Clover, because I mean, he really had to dig deep in that fight. And I think he was talking about that. And that is the other factor that goes into fighting, that, you know, you can have all the wits and the cleverness, you can have the skills, you can have the preparation, but sometimes you need to have also the ability to go beyond that into the zone where you're really like, you are tired, you're exhausted, you're mainly almost just surviving. And like
it's like a level where you let go of control and you go like beyond your current level of consciousness. It's like it's just a different level of consciousness.
Yeah, I think this is where like the spirit comes out, and this also I think is a big thing, because not every fighter has that. Some fighters, I mean, it's always easy to judge from the side, but it's pretty clear for me sometimes that when we watch like UFC fights, some fighters after a certain point, they just kind of almost like stop fighting.
Yeah, they break and they actually give up. Not maybe actually give up, but they give up, like actually trying to win, trying to do something. They just, And
I don't know like how you actually, I mean, maybe it's something that is kind of partly, you know, in you. It's just like you have this spirit, like a fighting spirit.
And of course you can train it.
Yeah.
Because I think eventually everyone has a breaking point. And as long as you are a stronger person in the fight and the enemy breaks sooner, then it's good. Because even I remember Rickson Crazy, he was having this very tough fight with somebody in the beginning of his career. And he was like almost ready to give up. Like he was saying like, I cannot take this anymore, like during the break, during the rest time, to his coach. And he was like, I cannot do this anymore. And then his coach said something like, let's just go. And he, like, your opponent is also ready to give up. But he wasn't thinking about his opponent. He was only thinking about himself, that, I cannot do this anymore. Like, I'm going to lose. And then he just went to the last round and went a little bit harder. And eventually the opponent broke and he gave up.
Right.
So everyone has like a breaking point, and it just depends on who breaks first. So that's why training is very important. Your mentality is very important. And actually your emotions are the most important, because if your emotions are not in check and in a very strong and healthy state, then you will break very fast. Even the toughest guys, if you are emotionally broken, you will break almost immediately under pressure.
Yeah, but that's also a lot, I guess, related to what happens outside of your life.
Yes, of course, it has almost everything to do with
like your whole life.
Like if
are you just like mentally even healthy or whatever, mentally strong?
Yeah, if you're mentally, like the mental health is actually I think it's the most important thing for the resilience in combat sport. Because if something really bad just happened in your life and your girlfriend is like really causing trauma and draining your energy, it's very, and then you know you have a fight in 2 days. You will be like depleted, like emotionally in the fight, and you won't have any energy to actually fight to your maximum potential.
True.
Because I remember even our Grandmaster Jiang Yu Shan, he was talking about how he had some problem with his X5 before one of his fights. So of course it makes a really big impact.
Yeah, it does, and it makes total sense because even if you don't have fight or anything, you're gonna be depleted. But
yeah, it doesn't matter what you do. Even if you go emotionally trained to any endeavor, you will be like doing very bad.
Yeah. But I can really like attest to this sort of survival or going beyond your limits thing, because even when you're not so experienced, even during like sparring, you sometimes go to that, and you can have all your sweet techniques, and you've been doing some pads with really crisp punches, but oh boy, when you get tired and you're just exhausted, it's total different game. And I think you cannot, like, it was really good kind of point, because you cannot just rely on the sharpness and on being like dominant. Like, this was actually the thing. Usually when you go to this position, you know that you're not super dominant, because if you go that far beyond that level, it means that it's real like you really need to push.
Yeah, because if you were actually dominant, you wouldn't go even close to that level or to the boundary. Because, for example, like Conor McGregor, of course, is amazing fighter, but he has always relied on his like the initial strength and the power he has in the beginning. But when the push comes to show, or what is the saying?
You mean when?
No, when the rubber meets the road. When the rubber meets the road, then usually Conor McGregor, he breaks down. So that's that's usually when you really hit your limit and you really get fatigued and tired. Then you really find out what is your true level.
Yeah, he won when he was like super dominant. But every time
when he runs over everyone else, then he's amazing. But when he has actually some opponent against him, which is actually equal or even better in terms of like resilience and everything else, then he starts to break very fast.
Yeah, and at least like that's the impression that you get. Like, he just like kind of like stop. And but like I said, of course it's very different to look it from the side. And I haven't been into actual like a hard fight, so I can't even say how I would react. But I think it's just an interesting thing to look at it and try to, at least every time you face that, and try to get into those positions. That's also one thing. Even now, like, we are learning with Nordine Taleb, who is a former UFC fighter also.
Yeah, he's actually a very good UFC fighter. Like, he had 7 wins and 5 losses, or actually 9 wins and 5 losses, which is really good in UFC. Like 14 fights it's amazing, and he had actually the highest takedown accuracy in the whole UFC ever. So that's why we're really learning from him.
And that's the thing, like, his levels above, and even in there you get to really experience the power of a guy like this. So it's also like humbling, but at the same time, like, that's how you get into those zones where you know that you're not better, you're not the dominant, and then you learn through that. I think it's a really big mistake if you just find these people who you can dominate. If, of course, that's also an important part, so you have partners that you're able to do more stuff. But like, these guys also teach you so much. They show you where the level is, and I think it increases also your spirit in that sense. Like, you get to experience this, you get to know what it is like to be in those positions against like experienced guys. And especially with him, like, it feels like you said that his takedowns at this point, it feels it's nearly I think impossible to try to stop. Even if I was like alert, observing, seeing everything, even then it would be so difficult to stop this guy from doing stuff. But
but that's very good, because we are getting like personal coaching from this very high level former UFC fighter. So it's just been we have already had many sessions with him, and we have already learned so much about takedowns and wrestling and everything else. So, and like you said, he's like, the level is still much higher, and he's also a much heavier guy. So it's like
that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, he used to fight like welterweight, and he's taller, so it's like it just makes you much tougher and much better, much faster when you're dealing with somebody who's bigger and stronger.
That's how I also feel about it, and like I feel like it's really maybe it's kind of a just to get like experience from him. Like he is from UFC. The Jiri is in UFC.
And
Silva
Jiri was like the highest level.
Yeah,
like it's like if you reach the UFC champion level, you are like incredible martial artist, incredible fighter, and incredible athlete as well.
That's true. And I don't know, there was some other things as well, I think, from Jiri, that because he has the unique style, right? And this is also another factor that is important, because not so many people have the faith nor the trust nor even the confidence to follow their own style. Because I think Jiri said quite directly to us that he used to be even much more what is the word? Maybe like strict about his own style. Maybe strict.
Trying to keep hands up and trying to fight conventional style.
No, I mean, I thought that he was like, that he was very loyal to his just keeping his hands down. Like he wasn't like taking anybody else's like advice. He was this way. Yeah, so he was like super. Like he was really, what is it? Just confident about his own style, and he wanted to use that, even though other people would say like keep your hands up or something like this. At least this is how I understood it. But he made like then like a little bit change. So he took some influence for sure, because he noticed in the fights there were some things that he need to improve upon, which is a quite smart approach. So he was also stayed like open to then like to learn more about wrestling and even all this stuff. Of course, like if you're a martial artist, you constantly learn things. But it was still the thing that he was still kept his loyalty to his own style, and I think that is why he was, if not the large part, but it's a big part of why he even became the champion in the first place. That he did his own thing.
And Jiri Prochazka, he was also very interested in learning what we had to teach.
Yeah. This is what
so he was very interested in like movement and all this athlete precision training stuff we have, and qigong and like everything, like breathing. He was very interested in everything. So, and that's very interesting, because nowadays, like still today, so many people in like professional sports and mixed martial arts, they still try to like stick to the very old school, not old school, but the modern stuff. They really like to stick like weightlifting and very standard weight training for like strength and conditioning. But also many of these new guys, they're also recognizing the value of this ancient stuff and this more like niche stuff and like this.
Yeah, precisely.
Because actually what we have, because we are martial artists ourselves, what we have is actually like this is the most optimal strength and conditioning for martial arts and fighting. Like this is the most optimized. Like this is what we do, everything we do is actually perfect for all martial arts.
Yeah, and it's because there's that interesting combination is that we are martial artists, but we're also trainers. So, for example, Jiri has his own physical trainer, right? And who was also very excited to learn about our methods, which was quite nice to have. Like he was really like observing also on the side what we were doing.
And he was also a very good trainer.
Yeah, very good trainer as well.
On high level, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to be if you're training the Jiri.
Yeah, champion.
But the thing, like that's what I mean, like because we are martial artists, we are trainers, so we're combining those together, so we can we can always like adjust our training to suit these athletic needs that this sport has.
Yeah, of
and
course.
I think that's
like,
what creates the.
Yeah, of course. Like, what you teach to a boxer will be different from what you teach to a wrestler.
Yeah. For sure.
Different.
For sure, but. I mean, MMA, because it has all these things. It has the wrestling, it has the boxing, it has the kickboxing.
Yeah. For mixed martial arts, you have to learn everything we have, actually.
Yeah.
And for if you want to be a complete mixed martial artist, because MMA is actually just complete martial arts. Yeah, it shouldn't be even mixed martial arts. It should be called complete martial arts. Of course, it's maybe lacking some dangerous stuff, but it's like it's just, like the dangerous stuff is not even important stuff actually.
Yeah, or
Like
even some secret killing techniques.
Yeah, the dangerous stuff is like some small, like it's just some if you have like some recipes, a small like seasoning in the stuff. It's,
sounds a little bit spicy.
Yeah, a little bit spice in the
salt in the
yeah,
soup.
yeah, a little bit of salt in the soup. It's not like really important. Actually, everything you need in mixed martial arts is actually important because it's everything, the fundamentals and everything, like from distance control to mental, like strength, to physical and athleticism and striking and wrestling. Like it has all the basics and the fundamentals, which are actually the most important.
Yeah, and I think because he has this unique style, and he clearly had already interest into qigong. He had some, I don't know where he had maybe learned, but he had some qigong moves and some knowledge about breathing. He had learned about these things. I think this is why he was able to appreciate also what we had and what we even brought to the table, because he was like immediately kind of into it. Like he was like willing to try all the stuff. I mean, we did warrior qigong, we did standing meditation, we did the breathing drills in addition to the animal movements. That also like this was actually interesting thing. His trainer knew us like from our old YouTube
from 5
videos.
years ago.
Yeah, from 5 years ago, and he was like, wow, this is incredible. Like because he wanted to meet us also. That's why he even joined the sessions. So he said that he had taken like animal movements from me. Also, like he had been doing animal movements already with Jiri, like even before we came there, and then just showed like more movements that he had never seen and do all of these and with different type of benefits and learning about the different like the scapular control, the fine articulations of the shoulder and all this stuff. Like it's these people can perceive like really the value in this. I think that's also a huge factor, like I said. So you have your own style, but you're open to really learn and absorb this knowledge. And like I already talked even in the beginning, like really take notes. And because you can see if a person is just listening kind of like, yeah, okay. And or if he's really paying attention and trying to like get value from it. I think that's also, even for me, if I learn something, I'm really trying to see beyond what I'm actually getting. Even when we learned with Grandmaster Jiang Yu Shan, like when he teaches the qigong forms or something, it's not only that I want to, copy the form and imitate it, but I want to know what's going on in their side. I want to really know how do I actually really embody the essence of these movements, and that is a very important factor.
Yeah, but with the animal movements, even the stuff what we did 5 years ago, it has been updated a lot. Like even this year we did like 30 new animal movements and many new routines.
And this is what we were actually showing.
Yeah, this was actually what we were showing. So everything was new. And what we have in Movement 20X method right now, it's like it has lots of the new stuff and lots of very updated stuff that is not really around anywhere. It's you cannot find it on YouTube. You cannot find it anywhere. So it's like completely new. But it was very good to see that Jiri was, because he was in the right direction. He was very much in the holistic way of life and the natural way of life, and also interested in the ancient ways of stuff and everything else. So, but what's surprising that he's not the only one, because this year we also met Alistair Overeem,
right,
who is like one of the best kickboxers ever. Like he's top 3 best kickboxers ever, and he was in the top 5 of UFC for a very long time, for years and years, and he fought for the title against Stipe Miocic. Like even he recently retired because he's now focusing on the holistic and detox and everything else. So like I said, we spent 2 days with Alistair Overeem, and we had dinner with him and his business manager. And because what Alistair Overeem is doing right now after his retirement, he's thinking of like building these health and detox events where will be like, which will involve like ice baths, like Wim Hof stuff, breathing, detox, and also what we have to teach. So that's why we were interacting with Alistair Overeem just a few months ago. and having dinner with him because we were talking about how we can participate in his event, and he's planning like international events. He's not planning like some small event. He's planning like insanely big, like some of the biggest events ever in terms of health and fitness, like bigger than Mind Valley and bigger than these biohacking events. Like he's planning the biggest health and fitness and detox and holistic stuff events in history probably.
Yeah, true. Like massive, like just massive events and all over the world. Like even he mentioned that even possibly in Helsinki, which is in Finland, the capital city of Finland, where we are from. So that is quite something. But yeah, that's telling about these people. Like I think there's like multiple people who are kind of waking up into this. Like you said, it's a bit of like a detox, but also the spiritual culture. Like you start to understand the body in much more holistic manner, which is precisely what we have been after for like many years.
Yes, this is what we have been doing, like even with the YouTube channel for over 5 years, 7 years, like exactly. And now everyone, like if you look at Alistair Overeem's training and his diet and everything else, it's becoming more and more what we have done for the 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's not like, it's very nice to see like this, some of the biggest and most successful guys really finding this stuff and really starting to learn the real natural holistic way of training.
Yeah, and he had like completely changed even his looks. Like I think he looked really slim and really good, like just
like
very,
natural.
Yeah, natural, a very like a completely different person. And still like he does his fasting. I think he doesn't eat meat, right? He was vegan, I think almost.
Yeah, at least now.
Yeah, at least for now. And
we were teaching him some very advanced fasting methods as well. Something we haven't even talked about anyway. Because what people don't realize that we have so much stuff, because we're still working on many projects and trying to condense this information to books and courses and stuff. Like we haven't spoken, like we have maybe over 50% of our stuff we haven't shared or revealed anywhere because we have been busy condensing it to these other forms of stuff, and until they are ready, it makes no sense to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's so much stuff that you want to talk about, and I hope that we're going to be able to talk more about these things. I mean, we will be able to talk like I think even quite in the near future, but yeah, still need to get all this together, because even this stuff about the fasting and the detox and all this we were going to be talking about this more in the future. So, but that holisticness, I don't know.
And just returning to the roots.
Yeah, returning to the roots, and like we always emphasize this certain natural approach. Like we talk about, you don't need all these chemicals, you don't need drugs, you don't need to take even supplements. Like finding like really that, or utilizing really your own nature to your advantage, because it's all here, it's already there. You don't need to have all these other substances to support your being, or to get strength from some other stuff from outside of yourself. So right now, from all of this, what we are really like planning to do in the future, like we are really taking this MMA practice quite seriously, as you have noticed. We have been doing already for a very long while, like the pad training and all of this, but now we've also added the like MMA coach, professional fighter, who is training us in person and showing all this wrestling stuff, and just showing us the whole game of MMA actually. So we're really trying to get like really deep in the mixed martial arts, and
like
get a full picture of that.
Yeah, like the cage fighting, like it's actually cage fighting, because the cage is actually a very big element in MMA, and what people don't realize that it's very hard steel. So it's like in the beginning, my like elbows and even my forehead, like it was, and my back as well, it was so scratched and so bruised from the hard steel cage. And it's what people don't understand. It's in the beginning super painful. Even if you come from kickboxing and wrestling background, you are like surprised that your head is actually like scratching the whole steel case, and you get like
your back can get like severely scratched actually from like really it's crazy. That's not,
and it's actually steel. It's not like some soft material. It's like very hard steel. So
it is steel, right?
yeah, so steel, of course. What else?
That's great. Yeah, I don't know actually. Yeah, I guess some metal for sure.
Yeah, but
yeah.
yeah, but we have been training like sparring and doing the pads and now training from the MMA coach. Like we will be very likely fighting amateur level this year later.
Yeah, and it's like if you're planning like you have this like okay you want to fight like it takes things on a different kind of level because you have to really or at least like I want to like really be prepared for it. I mean you can't be fully prepared, you just need to go and fight, but I feel really good at least and more confident getting like this kind of coaching from a guy like the Nordine Taleb. And yeah, the iron cage, I mean I even like I hit my head on it doing like a takedown practice, and I was asking like how do I stop my head hitting from Nordine, and he was just like, oh, it just happens, you know. It's just part of this thing. Like,
yeah, it's a hard sport.
Yeah, because I mean we talk about him a few times about this pain actually, even like when you take away shin guard or something, and you're gonna be experiencing a lot of pain there, all these impacts. But in actual fight, there's a huge difference, which is that you have probably like just you're gonna be filled with adrenaline, and that actually like softens all the pains. You will feel afterwards, of course, a lot, but you know during the fight it won't be as painful, even though you think it may be. You know that's one of the things. But we also have, like we mentioned, a lot of big projects. We have the Iron King method coming out, which has like a ton of functional training with the equipments, the maces, the clubs, the sandbags, the old school bodybuilding principles. That it's all like just kind of supports even this with the grip strength and everything. It supports the MMA training, very functional kinetic chain movements. It's such a massive amount of stuff to bring out.
And then we have also not just the Alistair Overeem, like the possible event in the future, but also like we have been invited to host do some sponsorships and also do some speaking stuff in like some biohacking events. So that's also like another area we will be focusing maybe later this year, like actually doing speeches and presentations about health and fitness and movement and qigong and training and stuff like this.
Yeah, just finding ways to really spread this knowledge that we have, like helping even more people, reaching more people.
Yeah, because what we realize that even among like biohackers, which they know a lot about like natural methods and holistic stuff, even among biohacking guys, we are very different and we have like lots of value to provide.
Yeah, because we were here in the summit and you know we saw like dozens of people who were talking, and it was also nice to see that because for us it's still like this kind of public speaking is going to be a new thing as well. But you know, we even saw Alistair speak them, and later he was. Alistair was speaking to us like, yeah, he was like nervous about it, and he forget what he was about to say, and all this stuff. Like, you know, it's like it's fine to have this kind of experience. You just need to still do it and go and learn about it, because the bottom line is the message that you have. And even he had a really important message about the phone addiction, and I mean, he got the message across. So going out there and spreading the stuff in these summits and events, I think that's going to be really, really exciting future.
But people don't realize that this stuff is not always so easy.
Yeah.
Like doing those live events and then doing MMA and then doing these new courses. Like we have lots of stuff going on, and we try to do everything the best to our ability, but sometimes it takes a bit longer than expected. And also, a lot of people are wondering whether we will be doing like new courses with the Grandmaster Jiang Yu Shan.
All right.
And actually, we have been open about doing the courses with him. Even earlier this year and last year, we were planning like doing some stuff, and we even sent him like message that we can come to Taiwan and like this. But apparently, he had some other plans, and at least now we have no plans whatsoever.
I guess for now it's all right. Like we are really busy with our own stuff. So
yeah, actually anyway, now it's just somehow just so much new stuff just opened up like by magic.
yeah.
Yes,
it's quite incredible actually. So new opportunities in the future ahead.
Yes.